Alright, here's the deal, guys. I have been in a car for over 6 hours in the past day. I am tired. I don't really want to go outside. It is really cold out, and I still want to make a really good video for you guys. So, with that being said, welcome to types of longboard decks. Alright, so in this video we're going to be covering 5 main types of longboard decks, 5 different styles and their sub-styles. These are going to be the most popular types of longboard decks on the market. They're going to be ones that you find a lot on the internet, ones that you're going to be constantly thrown in front of. And the 5 styles that we're going to be covering are as follows: top mounts, drop throughs, drop downs, double drops, and pintails. So let's start with top mounts. Alright, so top mount boards, they are one of the most popular style of longboards on the market today. And we're going to be discussing 3 different styles of top mount boards. So what exactly is a top mount board? Well, a top mount board is essentially where you got your trucks here, and as you can see, this is the truck. If you look at the top of the board, all you can see are the bolts. This is a top mount. It means that the board is mounted so that the trucks are completely on the bottom of the board and the top of your board is completely flat. Kind of like a normal skateboard deck. Not all top mounts are the same. There's 2 distinct styles of top mounts out there that really stand apart, and those are going to be the large cruiser and the twin tail. So let's start off with the large cruiser, which I happen to have right here. So this is a large cruiser, and if you know what a cruiser board looks like, you may notice this looks a lot like a cruiser board. It's got the distinguishable tail right here, little kick tail like a cruiser has, and then the small little nose pointed up. Don't buy these. From my experience, every single time I've ever seen a large scale cruiser, they are trash, straight trash. They're made by cheap brands. They're not good, the bearings suck, the wheels suck, and typically the board is really thick. I don't know why, but they have like 10 plies of maple or something in here. And another little pro tip to tell if your board is high quality, as you can maybe see here, the board sides are painted. The whole thing's painted black. Now, the board does have a custom painted graphic on the bottom by my sister, but I can assure you the sides were painted black when this was purchased. And that is the problem. A lot of cheap boards like to hide their low quality board construction by painting the sides so you can't see the ply level of the wood. Just kind of a little red flag to look out for. But yeah, do not buy these. They're super stiff and it's going to make cruising very unenjoyable. You're going to be going really slow. It's going to be really stiff, which is going to cause you to not absorb any vibrations. You're going to feel every bump you hit, every little crack in the road. Yeah, just don't buy these. Stay away from these. And that's going to bring us to our next topic, the twin tail top mount. There are 2 variants of the twin tail top mount. There are the cruiser top mount and there are also the dancer. But since I have the cruiser in my hand, let's talk about the cruiser. Alright, so this is the cruiser version of the top mount. These things are actually kind of cool. It does resemble slightly a large cruiser style, but it's a lot different. And the noticeable difference with this one is it has 2 raised tails. One's a little bigger here, which is a little abnormal, and one's right here, it's smaller, but it is raised. And this is made by a top tier high quality brand called Loaded Longboards. As you can see, it's super flexy because it's made out of fiberglass and bamboo, but because of its top mount construction, it has that classic top mount. Oh, did the light just turn off? There we go. Because of that classic top mount construction, it has really good carving and turning abilities. Really easy to use. Pop a couple tricks with it, do whatever. I really like the top mount cruiser when it is not made like that thing. Another thing you can notice about this particular board here, the width of it is a lot skinnier than the other board, which is going to make it a lot more flexy and awesome. I'm not sure how well the video is picking that up, but there is a clear difference in thickness. Alright, moving on to the last type. Oh, you can't see my face. That's a problem, isn't it? There we go. This is the dancing type of longboard. This is actually one of my all-time favorite types of longboards. I love dancing longboards. And as you can see, it is a top mount construction. The whole top is flat. The distinguishable features about dancing boards are their tails are extraordinarily wide. They are really wide, almost the same width as the board here. They just narrow a tiny bit. They are raised tails, so they're really easy to pop. And the bottom here, if you can kind of see, has these little cutouts under the wheels for wheel wells. That helps so you don't get any wheel bite from the wheels. It's a very thin board, but it is also made out of maple, and that's pretty common for dancing boards because they typically want to have a little bit of flex, but not as much as like a springy bamboo board like the last one we showed. And that is because dancing boards are meant for dancing and freestyle tricks. So it needs to be a little more snappy than your average board. Really like these boards. Dancing boards are huge. They can range anywhere from 38 inches to up to 48 inches or maybe even longer. Really long boards, so you have a lot of foot room to do your dancing tricks. They're really good. So if you're somebody that is in the market for a board and wants to specifically do dancing / freestyle tricks, I would highly recommend a board like this. And I would also recommend getting it from a top tier seller that is known for their high quality decks. If you want to check out this particular board, this is the Rain Nene deck. That's what I use. I have a review video on it, which you can check out up here in the corner. Really awesome board. I don't want to spoil the review though, so let's move on to the next type of board. The drop through. Ah yes, the drop through. One of my all-time favorite types of boards, if I can get this camera settled. The drop through is an amazing type of longboard deck. It is so versatile and so amazing, and the distinguishing feature about the drop tail are the little slits in the tails and how the trucks are mounted. So let me go grab my longboard deck and I will show you just that. Alright, here we are. This is a drop through deck, so I want you to pay attention to how the trucks are mounted here. As you can see, we got a little slit here. I can show you a little better with this deck here. You see that slit in the tail? That is what I'm talking about. And as you can see, the trucks here, so longboard trucks have two different parts. There's like the bottom part and then the top part. The bottom part of the truck is where the wheels are held and is mounted on the bottom. And the top part gets hooked right on top of the board into the slit. So you take the two parts of the truck off, you take the top part and you put it through the top, and then you take the bottom part and put it through the bottom, screw it on, and that's how that works. The reason for doing this is because you can get the board a lot lower to the ground by doing this, because your wheels are going to be closer to the deck versus a top mount. And it also gives it kind of a different feel for riding it. It's hard to explain unless you've used it, but I personally really love drop-through decks. And there are two distinct styles of drop-through decks. There are the raised tails and the flat tails. Let's start with the flat tails. I want you guys to be very careful when buying flat tail boards because they are very easy to manufacture, and a lot of cheap longboard manufacturing companies like to make them and rip people off by wasting their money on cheap boards that are just trash. For example, this board right here. You want to see my review on this? Check it out here. I was probably a little too easy on it though, so yeah, I probably would not buy this if I were you. This board is a drop-through deck, as you can see by the little tail holes here. When you hold it up, it is completely flat. Now, I want to reiterate, this doesn't mean the board is bad. Flat-tail longboards that are drop-through are perfectly fine. Problem is, a lot of cheap manufacturers can make these easily, and they don't make them that great. Either the board sucks, or it's a combination of the board and all the other components that are just low quality, and they're just not gonna make you have a good experience riding your board. With that being said, flat tails are made for cruising, and if you get a really high quality, nice one, they're great for cruising. Because of the drop-through construction, you have a lower center of gravity when you're on your board, which makes it feel more stable and you feel more secure on it, which in turn allows you to go faster on the board without feeling like you're going to die, which is important. So these boards are really good for the average cruiser person, someone looking to cruise a lot that wants to go at pretty fast speeds. So potentially a beginner could start on this, but it also allows for intermediate and advanced people who want to go really, really fast. So if that's the sole reason you want to get a longboard, I would look at flat-tailed drop-through boards. Now let's talk about raised tails. This particular board, the one I said I love a lot, is a drop through with raised tails. As you can see here, the tails are raised up a little bit. The reason you would want to get a raised tail board over a flat tail board is because of versatility. This thing is so much more versatile and it can do a lot of things. It has all the benefits of the flat tail one, but because of the raised tail, it allows for things such as popping the board up and doing things of that nature. So if you want to be able to learn a little dancing, but you don't want just a dancing board, you could get this one, and you can do a little dancing on it. Freestyle on it too, because you can pop the board up, do tricks. I have a lot of tutorials on the channel of me using this exact board for doing trick tutorials, and it's worked great. You can even take this on light downhill if you really want. Now, I wouldn't recommend buying this type of board for specifically downhill longboarding, but if you want to get slightly introduced to it, you certainly can. And it works pretty well for learning how to slide too. So it doesn't do anything great besides cruising. It's amazing at cruising, but everything else it does about average. But you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because then you only have to buy one board and you get to learn all different styles of longboarding. You may not be able to master all the styles on this board, but you can certainly learn them, which is why I highly recommend looking for a longboard that's drop through with raised tails. This one is the loaded Tien Flex 2 deck. It is what I use, so if you want to check that out, I do have a review on it, but it is very old and kind of trash. I will probably make an updated one in the future, which will be linked in the description if you're watching this in the future. Anyways, let's go talk about the next style, which is the drop down deck. Alright, here's the deal, guys. I don't actually own a drop down deck in my possession, but I have in fact used one. And I'm going to use this piece of wood to illustrate exactly what a drop down deck looks like. Alright, this is what a drop down deck looks like. You see that? So a drop down deck is kind of like if a drop through and a top mount had a baby. So just like a top mount, the trucks are mounted the same way. The truck is completely on the bottom, the top of the tail is flat. The difference is, to get the stability of a drop through deck rather than mounting through the tails, they just literally drop the board down. So it kind of has a funky looking shape. So it's like a board and then it raises up, which makes these boards extremely low to the ground. So the wheels and the board, there's just a tiny little gap in here. These boards are very unique. They're interesting. Not a lot of people use these boards, but they do have their purpose. These ones are extremely stable. So they're really good for going high-speed cruising, but the only downside to that is you lose a little bit of your turning capability in cruising using this. So what they really shine at is downhill or free riding, especially because you can lock your feet in right at these edges here, and it kind of holds your feet onto the board so you don't slip out. So they're really nice for doing that downhill free riding kind of stuff, but if you want to cruise with it as well, you certainly can. I've used one and they do feel very interesting, and they're not what I was used to, but I think if you loosen the trucks up enough, they can be good for cruising as well. But yeah, definitely a unique shape and kind of cool. And that brings us to our next type of board, which is the double drop board. Very similar to the drop down deck. Think of the drop down deck having a baby again with the drop through deck, and that's how you get the drop down deck. Here's another mini illustration of what the double drop deck looks like. You see those little bumps on top of the tails? That signifies the top of the truck. So these actually mount just like a drop through deck. So half the truck is on top, half is on the bottom with the wheels, but it also has the board dip down. So this is like taking the drop down deck and putting it on steroids essentially. You're making it even closer to the ground. So you're getting the turning and feel of a drop through deck on a drop down deck. And these are very unique boards. They're hard to find, and not a lot of people sell them. So you have to be careful. You have to make sure that whatever company you're buying it from makes high quality boards and whatnot. They are definitely made for downhill riding. Because of how low and how stable they are, the turning does take a hit on these. So I would buy these if you are specifically looking for a board for downhill riding specifically. But they are pretty cool and pretty unique. So if you do get one, that's pretty darn cool, and you better add me on Instagram and show me your board because I want to see it. Anyways, we have one more final board type to talk about. Let's get right to it. Alright, you guys, and the final board type we are going to be talking about today is called the Pintail board. This is kind of what the Pintail board looks like. It kind of looks like an eye shape almost. I don't know, that's kind of what it looks like. But yeah, this is what it looks like. You have your trucks mounted here and mounted here. These are very unique boards, but you have to be extremely careful when buying a Pintail board. And the reason for this is because the Pintail board is super easy to replicate the shape of, and it runs into the same problems that the large cruiser board runs into. A lot of manufacturers will cheap out and use that shape to make the boards because it's really easy to replicate. They'll make the board super thick like this, super hard and rigid, and then they use trash components, and then it's horrible. So you do have to be very careful when buying a Pintail, but I will say, if you can find a high quality manufacturer for the Pintail, they are really awesome boards. Especially if you can get one that's a little flexy and maybe made out of bamboo. they're pretty awesome. And these things can go wicked fast. So if you want a board that is specifically for cruising and you're not really big on the drop through style or the top mount cruising style, this is a very unique one to get. But I really urge you to make sure you only buy a nice expensive quality one, because these things can get really bad if you buy cheap ones. And those are the 5 main styles of the board. And now I want to bring you to the awards show. Put on your hats. Alright, and winner of best style for somebody on a budget is the drop through with flat tails. The drop through with flat tails. Alright, and next award is for best baller board. This is the board that is awesome. It's pricey, it's expensive, you're balling out with it, but it's sick. And that is going to go to the drop through with raised tails. Kind of similar to the other one, but the raised tails do tend to only be found in premium boards like my loaded Tien. That is not a cheap board, but is extremely versatile. It can do so many things. It's great, and you can't go wrong with them. Best baller board. Next award, the most unique board. This is going to the double drop board, like the one I drew here. These things are wild looking, they're crazy, they're hard to find. If you find someone that's using one of these things, you better go up and say what's up to them, because these things are crazy cool. Last award is my favorite style. This might come as a shock to you, but my favorite style is actually the dancing longboard. Yeah, it's not even the baller board, it is the dancing longboard. I personally really love doing dancing and freestyle, and this particular board has been awesome. I love the board. With that being said, guys, this video is getting really long. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm hoping that you guys found this interesting. If you want to hear more videos like this detailing more in-depth things about longboards or skateboards or anything in that genre, definitely hit the subscribe button with the post notification bell turned on. If you like the video, leave a like. I'm not going to waste any more time. It's been your boy OG Den signing out, and I got a review video coming Wednesday that you're not going to want to miss, so you better hit that subscribe button. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Peace out.